just love playing my electric guitar. I have a new tube amp that I'm playing through. It's just so beautiful. I mean, not my playing, but the sound of the tube amp. A good friend of mine made it and sent it to me for my birthday. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I learned six languages. Um, I actually speak six languages. Now, they vary. I vary in proficiency with each, but just want to share a little bit about how I learned. Um, and I'm going to try to make this a shorter video. You know, um, how I learned six languages. Well, first of all, my first language, English, is the language I've used, um, learned as a child in school, was educated in. And so I really didn't have to study that. The English is my native language, and I always knew it. um, and it's a beautiful language. It can't be compared with any language. English is so special, has its own loveliness. Um, and when I was in college, I spent 2 years in England, so I learned more about English there. Um, then we go to Spanish. My background is Puerto Rican, so growing up as a boy, we heard a lot of Spanish around the house, in the family, in church, and things like that. So I've always understood Spanish. Growing up in the United States, I was often a bit ashamed of my Spanish because I didn't really speak it well. But Spanish was always a part of my mind and my heart. And so later I did study Spanish seriously. In fact, I did a college degree on it and a master's degree in teaching foreign language. And I spent time in Spanish-speaking countries, several. Um, then the next language would probably be German. I said I was in England. Well, I spent 1 year in England learning German. I was in a German class, had the most amazing German teacher. Funny, brilliant, excellent German, obviously. And the thing that made it special was that there were people in the dorm, guys in the dorm from Germany, that I would learn a word in class, like, for instance, Dummkopf, dummy or something like that. And I'd go back, running back to the dorm and say, Dummkopf, Dummkopf, and I'd try it out on them, and they would, they'd laugh because, I was just trying a few words here and there. But it opened some doors to me, made me realize that if I tried, people could seem to understand me, and I'd get a reaction, and that was interesting to me. And they would teach me things, so that really, really helped. I fell in love with German. In fact, I went back to university after England and started on a German major. So I did quite a number of German courses, got A's on everything because I just loved the language. And honestly, I felt it got a bum rap. A lot of people say German is a harsh language, it's a rough language. Not at all. It's one of the most beautiful languages. And now, it's the one language that I don't practice that much. So I will sometimes, oh shoot, sorry, my light went out. And so I need to, let me just pause this while I turn the light on. Okay, sorry about that. So I don't practice German as much as I'd like to, simply because it's harder to find German speakers. But whenever I do, even if I watch a German movie, I start getting back into it. So then the next language would be French. This probably is one of the languages in my heart. I mean, it's probably my favorite language that I've learned. I learned that going over to France. I didn't have any background, really didn't know much at all. I mean, maybe bonjour, something like that. But I got over there, and somehow between my English brain and my Spanish brain, between the two, I could figure out French. I had some good teachers, an excellent French teacher, and he inspired me. I wanted to be French. Studying with him, we had students from all over the world, And so spending 6 months in the country, living in an apartment there every day, going to the boulangerie to get a baguette or fromage at the fromagerie, and so on and so forth. It was just an amazing experience. Every day meeting people, using the French. Pretty soon, within 3 weeks, I pretty much understood the language, but I needed a lot more vocabulary. So French, I still practice that as often as I can. I've taught it many times over the years. I just love French, everything about it. French movies. I watch so many French movies. That helped me. People would compliment me, man, how did you learn that French? You sound like a native. Um, I never truly believed that, but I did take it as a compliment and pride myself in the French I was able to learn. And so that's French. Now, the next language is Bulgarian. This one I learned for love. My wife is from Bulgaria, and I knew enough about languages at that point that if I can learn the language, maybe I can win the girl's heart. And so that's kind of how how I did it. But really, a language unknown to me in America, the first thing I did was I went to a bookstore and I bought a book called Teach Yourself Bulgarian. Pretty simple title. And it was amazing. I learned the alphabet first, the Cyrillic alphabet, which is what the Russian language is built on. And once I learned the alphabet and a few phrases, I began calling my then girlfriend and interacting, visited a couple of times, interacting with that Slavic community, Bulgarians and people from other Slavic countries, and I began to acquire phrases and learn about the culture and so forth, and the language began to come to me little by little, and I had a good memory, I had a good ear, so things would stick. So I think I studied 5 chapters in the book. I learned the alphabet, and that's about all the Bulgarian language that I've studied formally, although I have been to the country several times for a long period of time, and great opportunities to develop your language skills there. And then the 6th language, I have to say, I learned from my students. For many years, I was an ESL teacher. That's what I did. Many students from Brazil, some from other Portuguese-speaking countries like Cabo Verde, and I'm not sure if I had anybody from Portugal. But anyway, Angola, had students from Angola where the Portuguese is spoken. That was a language that I learned in the hallways at school, using the Spanish, the French, the Latin-based languages that I already had in my head. I would hear the students, the Brazilian students mostly, between classes, talking to each other in in Portuguese, and learned great phrases like "nossa" and "rapaz" and different things. And I actually visited Brazil, spent about a week there only, but fell in love with the creativity, the dynamism of the Brazilian culture and the Brazilian people. So it's another language that I love. So each one of the languages, and this is my point, there's no one way to learn a language. You can learn languages in many ways, and I've got 6 under my belt right now, and I learned each one differently. Visit my website, earforlanguage.com. I have a little more detail. I've written out this story, but I wanted to share with you on video tonight, and I hope that will inspire you to take on the language. You may not have the perfect class or teacher or situation, but you can learn if you have the will and the desire. Okay? I think I played guitar at the beginning, so I'll leave it out now. But anyway, keep learning languages, and God bless. We'll see you next time.